Hello everyone, and welcome to my YNR Official 24 channel. Victor Newman sits alone in his office at Newman Enterprises, the lights of the city blinking beneath him like a living chessboard. Every piece is in motion, every betrayal accounted for, except one. Michael Baldwin. His attorney. His fixer. His confidant. The man who has buried secrets, destroyed enemies, and bent the law until it screamed. All in Victor's name. Victor doesn't want to believe it at first. He tells himself it's paranoia, that the years of warfare with Jack Abbott have sharpened his instincts into something almost cruel. But paranoia has kept Victor alive, and tonight, it's whispering one undeniable truth. Michael is turned. The proof comes in fragments. A delayed file transfer. A call that ends too quickly. A security log accessed at an hour Michael swore he was home with Lauren. Then comes the name Victor never expected to see connected to Michael Baldwin in this way, Jack Abbott. And worse than Jack, Nikki. Victor's jaw tightens as the realization settles in. This isn't just corporate betrayal. This is personal. Nikki, his weakness. Jack, his eternal rival. And Michael, the man who knows where every body is buried, sometimes literally, has chosen them over him. Victor feels something cold bloom in his chest. Something that isn't anger yet, but disappointment sharpened into resolve. Across town, Michael Baldwin is unraveling. He never wanted it to come to this. He tells himself that over and over as he paces his living room, Lauren begging him to slow down, to breathe, to think. But thinking is what got him here. Thinking about Nikki, trapped in Victor's endless war. Thinking about Jack, finally trying to protect someone other than himself. And thinking about Victor, about how many times he's asked Michael to destroy lives without blinking. Michael tells Lauren he's doing the right thing, that for once he's stepping out of Victor's shadow. But even as he says it, he knows the truth. Victor Newman does not forgive betrayal. He ends it. Jack Abbott, meanwhile, senses the storm before it hits. He's learned that skill the hard way, usually too late. When Michael meets him in secret, the tension is suffocating. Michael hands over documents, proof of Victor's latest scheme, something so devastating it could ruin Newman Enterprises and put Victor behind bars for good. Jack hesitates. This isn't just business, this is war. And Nikki is the silent weight between them. Michael admits it then, his voice breaking just slightly. He did this to protect Nikki. Because Victor's plan would destroy her, emotionally if not physically. Jack realizes, with a chill, that Michael has already signed his own death warrant. Nikki, for her part, is haunted by unease. She knows Victor better than anyone. She knows the look in his eyes when he's been crossed. When she confronts him, demanding to know what he's planning, Victor lies smoothly, too smoothly. He tells her the game is under control, that Jack will lose, that Michael is loyal. Nikki doesn't believe a word of it. Years of loving Victor have taught her one brutal lesson. When Victor is calm, someone is about to be destroyed. The confrontation comes at night, in a place soaked with history. Victor's private office, the door locked, the air heavy with inevitability. Michael is summoned, no explanations given. He walks in knowing this may be the last room he ever leaves. Victor doesn't shout. He doesn't rage. That's what makes it terrifying. He lays out the evidence piece by piece, like a prosecutor delivering a closing argument. The documents, the calls, the meetings with Jack, the silent attempt to shield Nikki. Michael doesn't deny it. He can't. And for a fleeting moment, Victor almost looks proud that Michael had the courage to stand up to him. Almost. Michael tells Victor the truth, that he was loyal, that he gave Victor everything. But there had to be a line. Nikki was that line. Jack was collateral. And Victor had finally gone too far. The words hang in the air, daring Victor to prove him wrong. Victor steps closer, his voice dropping to something deadly quiet. He tells Michael that loyalty isn't conditional. That betrayal dressed up as morality is still betrayal. And then he says the words that freeze Michael's blood. You know too much to walk away. Michael pleads, not for himself, but for Lauren, for his children, for Nikki. He reminds Victor of everything he's done for him, every crime covered, every enemy silenced. Victor listens. And then, with a finality that echoes through the room, he tells Michael that those are exactly the reasons he cannot be allowed to live. The game, Victor says, only works if the rules are absolute. And the first rule is simple. You never betray Victor Newman. What happens next is brutal, swift, and devastating. There is no melodrama, no grand speech. Just a gun, already hidden in the desk, because Victor always plans ahead, and a single, fatal shot. Michael collapses, shock etched across his face as he realizes too late that there was never a way out. His final words are a whisper, Nikki's name barely audible, a last attempt to justify the choice that cost him everything. Victor watches, stone-faced, as the life drains from the man who once called him friend. The fallout is seismic. Lauren's scream when she learns the truth rips through Genoa City like a siren. She knows instantly who is responsible. She storms into Newman Enterprises, grief transforming into fury, and slaps Victor across the face, an act that would terrify anyone else. Victor doesn't retaliate. He accepts it, because on some level, he knows this blood is on his hands forever. Lauren vows vengeance, swearing that Victor Newman will pay, one way or another. Jack is destroyed by guilt. Michael died protecting him and Nikki, and Jack knows that Victor's warning has never been clearer. This was a message, a declaration of war. Jack promises himself that Michael will not be forgotten, that his death will not be meaningless. But deep down, Jack is afraid that even now, he's already lost. Nikki is shattered. When Victor finally tells her the truth, the mask slips just enough for her to see the monster he has become. She tells him she never asked for this. Never wanted Michael's blood on her conscience. Victor insists he did it for their family, for their future. Nikki's voice breaks as she tells him there is no future built on murder. She walks away from him, leaving Victor alone in the silence he created. And Victor Newman stands victorious and utterly damned. He has won the game, eliminated the traitor, and reasserted his dominance over Genoa City. But for the first time, the victory feels hollow. Michael Baldwin was more than a pawn, he was a brother in arms. And as Victor stares out over the city once more, he realizes the truth too late. This move may have finally cost him everything that ever mattered. Because in Genoa City, blood never stays buried. And Michael Baldwin's death is only the beginning. The night Michael Baldwin dies does not end with a gunshot. It lingers, stretching itself across Genoa City like a curse that refuses to lift. By morning, nothing feels the same, not the hallways of Newman Enterprises, not the Abbott Mansion, not even the streets where Michael once walked believing, foolishly, that he could outsmart the devil he served for so long. Victor Newman does not sleep. He sits in the dark of his study, a glass of untouched whiskey in his hand, replaying the moment again and again. Michael's face. The shock. The betrayal layered with something worse, understanding. Michael knew, in the end, he knew Victor would do it. That knowledge haunts Victor more than the act itself. Because fear he can live with. Hatred he understands. But acceptance? That is a ghost Victor cannot silence. By sunrise, Victor is already moving pieces. Michael's death must look clean. Accidental, if possible. A robbery gone wrong. A tragic mistake. Victor summons his people, his voice steady, commanding, the same voice that has orchestrated corporate takeovers and personal destruction for decades. Evidence is adjusted. Cameras looped. Timelines rewritten. The world will see what Victor wants it to see. The world always does. But Genoa City is not fooled so easily. Lauren Fenmore Baldwin wakes with a scream, the kind that tears itself out of her chest before her mind even catches up. She reaches for Michael, her hand grasping nothing but cold sheets. The call comes minutes later. Police. A controlled tone. Regret. Finality. Lauren doesn't remember dropping the phone. She doesn't remember falling to the floor. She only remembers the sound of her heart breaking in a way that feels permanent, irreversible. At the hospital, Lauren demands answers. She knows Michael's life. She knows his enemies. And there is one name that screams louder than all the others in her mind. Victor Newman. When the police offer vague reassurances, when they talk about ongoing investigations and no immediate suspects, Lauren's grief hardens into something lethal. She knows this game. She's watched Victor play it for years. And this time, she swears, he has gone too far. Jack Abbott hears the news while standing in his office, staring at the very documents Michael died to protect. He sinks into his chair, guilt crushing him from all sides. Michael warned him. He begged him to be careful. And Jack, arrogant as ever, believed he could outmaneuver Victor Newman without blood being spilled. Michael paid the price for that mistake. Jack's hands shake as he realizes the truth. Victor didn't just kill Michael. He sent a message. To Jack. To Nikki. To anyone who dares to choose conscience over loyalty. Jack's grief turns quickly into rage. This is no longer about business. This is personal war. And for the first time in a long time, Jack Abbott understands that there may be no line he won't cross to bring Victor Newman down. Nikki Newman, meanwhile, is unraveling in private. Victor hasn't told her yet, not directly. But she knows. She feels it in her bones. When Victor walks into the living room later that day, his posture rigid, his eyes unreadable, Nikki looks at him and whispers one question. What did you do? Victor lies. He tells her Michael was involved in something dangerous. That things went wrong. That it wasn't his intention. Nikki listens, tears streaming down her face, and then says something that cuts deeper than any accusation. You always say that. When the truth finally comes out, when Victor admits that Michael betrayed him, that he chose Jack and Nikki over him, and that Victor handled it, Nikki recoils as if struck. She doesn't scream. She doesn't slap him again. She simply stares at the man she has loved most of her life and realizes she no longer recognizes him. You killed him, she says quietly. He forced my hand, Victor replies. No. Nikki snaps, her voice breaking. You pulled the trigger. Don't you dare blame Michael for that. Nikki leaves that night. Not dramatically. Not with suitcases. She just walks out the door, choosing distance over destruction. Victor watches her go, knowing this loss may be the one he cannot undo. Lauren refuses to mourn quietly. She demands justice, answers, accountability. She confronts Jack, accusing him of using Michael, of letting him stand between Victor and Nikki like a human shield. Jack doesn't defend himself. He can't. He admits his guilt, his failure, his arrogance. And in that moment, an uneasy alliance is forged, not of friendship, but of vengeance. Lauren and Jack want the same thing now. Victor Newman exposed. The problem is Victor's greatest strength has always been the same. He plans for everything. Or so he believes. What Victor does not anticipate is the secret Michael left behind. Hidden within the documents Michael gave Jack is something else, something Michael never mentioned aloud. A contingency. A digital trail encrypted and scheduled to release if Michael didn't check in by a certain time. It's not just evidence of Victor's latest scheme. It's a record of everything. Bribes. Blackmail. Crimes spanning decades. Michael kept it, not as insurance for himself, but as a fail-safe. A final act of defiance. When Jack realizes what Michael did, his breath catches. Michael knew he might die. And he prepared for it. The information doesn't leak immediately. Instead, Jack plays a dangerous waiting game. He feeds Victor small losses, minor legal challenges, unexpected scrutiny, whispers in the press. Victor senses the shift. Something is wrong. The board has changed. And when Victor realizes Jack is still standing, still fighting, he understands that Michael's death did not end the game. It escalates when Lauren goes public, not with accusations, but with grief. She gives an interview that devastates Genoa City. She speaks of Michael's loyalty, his struggle, his desire to be better than his past. She doesn't name Victor. She doesn't have to. Everyone knows. Public sympathy shifts. Questions rise. The police reopen lines of inquiry they were told, quietly, not to pursue. Victor's control begins to slip. Nikki returns, not to Victor, but to herself. She reconnects with Jack, not romantically, but emotionally. She tells him Michael died protecting her. Jack tells her Michael died believing Jack would finish what he started. The weight of that responsibility is crushing. Nikki vows she will not let Michael's sacrifice be meaningless. For the first time in years, she stands against Victor without hesitation. Victor senses it all. The distance, the resistance, the cracks in his empire. He doubles down, becoming colder, more ruthless. But even Victor Newman cannot kill an idea. And the idea spreading through Genoa City is simple and dangerous. Victor Newman is no longer untouchable. The climax comes when Jack finally pulls the trigger Michael never could. He releases the files. The fallout is nuclear. Investigations explode. Newman Enterprises stock plummets. Old enemies resurface. Allies vanish overnight. Victor is summoned, questioned, cornered in ways he hasn't been in decades. For the first time, he is not dictating terms, he is reacting. And through it all, Michael Baldwin's name becomes a rallying cry. Not a villain, not a fixer, a man who tried, at the very end, to do the right thing. Victor stands alone again, surrounded by the ruins of victories that now feel meaningless. He won the night he killed Michael, but he lost the war that followed. The walls finally start closing in on Victor Newman when the subpoenas arrive at Newman Enterprises, thick envelopes, official seals, and a silence in the executive suites that feels heavier than any shout. Employees whisper. Longtime allies avoid eye contact. For the first time in his life, Victor walks through his own kingdom and feels like an intruder. He tells himself this is temporary, that he has survived worse. That fear is just another opponent to be crushed. But something has shifted. This isn't Jack's rage or Lauren's grief alone. This is the consequence of Michael Baldwin knowing Victor too well. The authorities want Victor's phone records, his financial trails, his private meetings. Victor cooperates just enough to appear confident, defiant, innocent. But every question they ask carries Michael's fingerprints. Every document points back to conversations Victor assumed were buried forever. He realizes, with a slow burn of dread, that Michael didn't just plan for his death. He planned for Victor's downfall. Lauren becomes relentless. She sits through interrogations, reliving memories that now feel poisoned, and answers every question with brutal honesty. She doesn't embellish. She doesn't speculate. She simply tells the truth about the man Victor was, and the monster he became. Each word she speaks strips away another layer of Victor's carefully crafted myth. Jack refuses Victor's calls. When they finally meet, by accident, in the courthouse hallway, the tension is electric. Victor sneers, accusing Jack of using Michael as a weapon. Jack steps closer, eyes burning, and delivers a line that echoes long after. No, Victor. You turned him into one. Nikki watches the unraveling from a distance, her heart split between history and reality. She remembers the man Victor used to be, or maybe the man she believed he was. When she testifies, her voice trembles, but her resolve does not. She tells the truth about Victor's obsession with control, about the night Michael died, about the moment she realized love was no longer enough to excuse the damage. The trial doesn't begin immediately. Victor maneuvers, delays, threatens. But the damage is done. His children begin to question him. His legacy fractures. Even those who remain loyal do so out of fear, not faith, and Victor knows the difference. One night, alone in the same study where it all began, Victor pours another drink and doesn't touch it. He stares at the city, remembering Michael's final look, not anger, not hatred, but certainty. Michael knew Victor would fall eventually. That realization lands harder than any verdict ever could. When Victor is finally indicted, the headlines are merciless. Newman Titan falls. Betrayal, blood, and power. The world devours the story. Victor stands before the cameras, defiant as ever, but something in his eyes has dimmed. Lauren visits Michael's grave the night before Victor's arraignment. She tells him she kept her promise, that the truth is out, that his life mattered. As she walks away, she feels something close to peace, not forgiveness, but release. Jack stands in his office, looking at the empty chair Michael once occupied during their secret meetings. He whispers a quiet thank you, and a vow never to become the man Victor Newman chose to be. Nikki watches Victor from across the courtroom the next day. For a moment, their eyes meet. There is history there. Love. Regret. But Nikki does not look away. She lets Victor see what he lost. Victor Newman takes his seat, the weight of decades pressing down on him. He is not finished. He may never be finished. But for the first time, the game is no longer his to control.